In a world often clouded by uncertainty and challenges, hope emerges as a guiding light, whisper promises of possibilities that urges us to believe in a better tomorrow. That defined a poor orphan named Efosa from Ogute village in Edo State, in the heart of a lush green village called Ogute. There lived a young boy named Efosa. Life had not been kind to Efosa. He had lost both of his parents at an early age and now lived under the care of his stepmother, Mama Eis. But care was a generous word for what she provided. Mama Eis was harsh and cold toward Efosa, showing him no motherly affection. Instead, she lavished attention and comforts on her two sons, Eis and Jude, while Efosa struggled to survive. Every day, Efosa will watch as Eis and Jude ate healthy meals, dressed in clean clothes, and headed to school, laughing and cheerful. Meanwhile, Efosa was left to fend for himself. Mama Eis refused to pay his school fees, saying,
"Education is too precious for someone like you, Efosa. Let those who deserve it have it. You are such a lazy and useless boy, just like your mother."
She saw no value in investing in him, forcing him to work in the fields instead. Early each morning, before the sun had fully risen, Efosa would grab his worn-out tools and head to the family farm. He worked tirelessly, planting yams, weeding the fields, and harvesting crops in the relentless heat, hoping to earn enough to buy a little food. Sometimes, he would skip meals entirely, choosing to save every penny he could scrape together in hopes of one day paying for school himself. But his stepmother seemed determined to make even this difficult. If she ever saw Efosa with a few coins in his hand, she would snatch them away, claiming, "This is my farm, and everything that comes from it belongs to me. Did you hear me?" Efosa's life was lonely, but he refused to let the situation break him. In the evenings, when the rest of the family was asleep, he would sit by the dim light of a kerosene lamp, practicing his reading with the few worn books his late mother had left him. He would sound out each word too slowly, dreaming of a future where he could go to school like his stepbrothers, a future where he could learn and grow. One day, while Efosa was working on the farm, he overheard two men from the village talking by the roadside. They were discussing a scholarship program for underprivileged children in Ogute. His heart leaped at the news. Maybe this is my chance, he thought. The next day, Efosa gathered his courage and approached the village head, an elderly man known for his wisdom and fairness. He explained his situation, telling him about his dreams and how he longed to attend school. The village head listened intently, his eyes softening as he saw the determination in Efosa's eyes.
Efosa, I see a fire in you that I don't often see in others. You deserve this opportunity, since your stepmother refuses to pay your school fee. I will make sure I do all I can so that you can get the scholarship. Don't worry, my son, Efosa, you will get it. I am really grateful for your help in giving the scholarship to Efosa. Thank you, sir.
A few weeks later, Efosa was awarded the scholarship. For the first time, he would be able to attend school and receive the education he had longed for. Mama Eis was furious, but the decision was final, and the villagers supported Efosa.
From that day on, Efosa walked proudly to school, his books in his hand and his head held high. He knew his journey would be challenging, but he had learned that his strength did not come from wealth or privilege, it came from within. And as he stepped into the future, he knew he would never let his hardships define him. After a few years of dedication and hard work, Efosa completed his secondary education with top marks. He passed his exams with distinctions, earning the admiration of his teachers and the awe of his classmates. The scholarship that had carried him through primary and secondary school, however, ended there. And now, Efosa was left to face the next challenge alone. He yearned to attend university, to pursue his dream of becoming an engineer, and share his love of learning with others. But university was expensive, and there was no scholarship in sight. For days, Efosa wandered through the fields, thinking about how he could possibly raise the money he needed to pay for the JAMB exam and the university fee. One evening, Efosa went back to the farm, the same place that had been both a burden and a blessing throughout his life. He decided to start planting cassava, corn, and yams in larger quantities, hoping to sell them at the village market. It was a humble plan, but it was the only option he had. While most of his peers were preparing to leave for university, Efosa was once again getting his hands dirty, determined to fight for his future. When Mama Ehis learned of his plan, she mocked him openly.
You think you can farm your way to university? Oh my God. Why not give up, Efosa? Maybe you're just not meant for more than this.
Efosa felt her words sting, but he refused to let them sink in. Each day, he walked the land from sunrise until sunset, pushing himself to plant and harvest as much as he could. He often went without rest, his hands blistered and his body aching. But he kept his goal in sight. Even when his stepmother spread rumors in the village, telling people that Efosa was wasting his time, he kept his head down, stayed focused. Weeks turned into months, and Efosa saved every coin he earned from selling his crops. When he finally had enough, he registered for the JAMB exam. But as the date approached, a terrible drought hit Ogute. His crops dried up, and the little he had planted looked hopeless. He couldn't afford to buy more seeds, and he couldn't rely on his stepmother for support. Desperation crept into his heart. One evening, just as Efosa was on the verge of giving up, he remembered the few books his mother had left him. In one of them, she had scribed a note. In times of hardship, look within, for you carry the strength of those who came before you. Fueled by his mother's word, Efosa reached out to a new kind villagers for his hard work over the years. He asked if they could spare just a little food or water, promised to repay them as soon as he could. His sincerity touched them, and he gave him what they could, understanding that Efosa's dreams were not just for himself, but for a better life. With renewed hope, Efosa managed to scrape by until the drought lifted. But the day of the JAMB exam finally came. He walked into the examination hall with his heart racing. His hard work, his struggles, his late night studying by the dim light of a kerosene lamp, it all came down to this moment. He answered each question carefully. feeling as though his future depended on every stroke. After the exam, he waited anxiously, hoping that his efforts and sacrifices had been enough. Efosa waited weeks for the JAMB results, his heart pounding every time he thought about them. Then one afternoon, the news reached Ogute that Efosa had passed the JAMB with flying colors. He was eligible for admission into the university. The entire village celebrated his success, proud that one of their own had achieved such a feat. But despite the congratulations, Efosa knew he still faced a significant obstacle. There was no one to pay his university fees. Determined not to let this setback crush his dreams, Efosa returned to farming. He worked tirelessly, planting and harvesting more yams, hoping that he could somehow save enough for at least his first semester. Each morning, he would take his produce to the village market, but he realized he would need to reach a bigger market if he wanted to make enough money. One day, Efosa decided to make the long journey to Onwa Market, a bustling town much larger than Ogute. It was a full day's walk, but he packed his yams, tied them tightly in bundles, and set off for one early in the morning, determined to sell every single one. At Onwa Market, the crowds were overwhelming, and the air was filled with the lively sounds of traders calling out their wares. Efosa arranged his yams neatly, hoping to catch the attention of a good buyer. Soon enough, a man dressed in a fine clothing with a polished demeanor approached him. The man introduced himself as Engineer Bright, a wealthy businessman from Portharcourt city. He had commanding presence and a warm smile that put Efosa at ease.
These yams look fresh, Engineer Bright said, inspecting Efosa's produce. I will take all of them. Efosa's eyes widened. All? All of them? He asked, barely able to believe what he just heard. Engineer Bright nodded and paid him generously, more than Efosa could have ever hoped for. The money would be enough to get him a little closer to his university dreams. But just as Engineer Bright turned to leave, he received a call and rushed off hurriedly, forgetting to pick up his wallet, which had fallen on the ground beside the yams. Efosa noticed the wallet moments later, filled with a substantial amount of cash. For a moment, he stood frozen, his mind aching. This money could solve all his problems. If he used it, he could pay for his university fees, buy books, and secure a place to live. It was as if her fate had dropped all answer to all his struggles right into his hands. But as he stood there, clutching the wallet, his mother's words echoed in his mind. A person's true worth is shown by their honesty. She had always emphasized the importance of integrity, reminding him that true success was built on honesty, not shortcuts. After a moment of pause, Efosa ran through the market, looking for Engineer Bright. But with so many people and the man long gone, he had no luck. Feeling a heavy responsibility, Efosa decided to take the wallet to the village head in Onwa, hoping he could track down the owner. The village head was taken aback by Efosa's honesty. The young man returning a wallet full of cash. You don't see that every day, he said with admiration. He promised to help locate Engineer Bright, assuring Efosa that his actions would not go unnoticed.
Days passed, and Efosa returned to Ogute, feeling uncertain about whether he had done the right thing. While he waited, he continued farming, putting every ounce of effort into saving for his education, even though his dreams still felt distant. A week later, a messenger arrived in Ogute with a letter from Engineer Bright himself. In the letter, he expressed his gratitude for Efosa's honesty and requested to meet him. Curiosity and excitement swelled within Efosa as he made the journey back to Homer, wondering what this meeting might hold. When Efosa arrived in Homer, he was led to a sleek office building at the edge of the market. Inside, Engineer Bright was waiting for him, a warm smile on his face. The rich businessman looked even more impressive in person, with an air of confidence that Efosa could only admire. He gestured for Efosa to sit, offering him a seat across from his desk.
Efosa, I've heard a lot about you. Your honesty is rare, and it shows great character, Engineer Bright began. I know you've been through a lot. The hardships you faced, losing your parents, being treated poorly by your stepmother, working the farm day in and day out just to survive. But still, you managed to pass your exams with distinctions. That's no small feat.
I'm not going to lie, Efosa started, his voice a little shaky. There were times when I wanted to give up. I wanted to quit. But every day, I thought about my late mother, and I remember how she always told me that the greatest value a person could have was to never give up on their dreams. Even when things felt impossible, I kept going. Engineer Bright listened attentively, nodding as Efosa spoke. After a long pause, he leaned forward. You've shown an incredible amount of determination, Efosa. I've seen a lot of potential in you since the day we met at the market. You've inspired me, and I think it's time I help you in any way I can. Efosa's heart raced. Would this really be happening? I'm offering you something that would change your life. Engineer Bright continued. I run a business in Portharcourt, and I believe that your intelligence and perseverance, you could have a future in the industry. Here is my business card, he said, handing Efosa a sleek card with his name and contact information. I'm Portharcourt. Meet me at my office. I will help you with your university fees and anything else you need to start your journey. Don't worry about the money. We will figure it out together. Efosa took the card in his trembling hands, speechless for a moment. Thank you, was all he could manage, feeling a weight of lift off his chest. Engineer Bright smiled. You deserve this, Efosa. Keep your head high, and don't let anyone, not even your stepmother, make you feel less than you are. Your future is bright. I can see that. That night, as Efosa prepared to leave Homer, he felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Engineer Bright's promise of help seemed almost too good to be true. It was a lifeline that would not only pay for his education, but also open doors to a new life. A life he had always dreamed of, but never thought possible. Back in Ogute, Efosa began preparing for the journey to Portharcourt. He picked his things quietly and carefully, making arrangements with a few trusted villagers to help him. He knew his stepmother would never approve of him leaving for the city, and he didn't want to deal with her mocking remarks or attempts to discourage him. Mama Ehis would be furious if she knew. He knew she would say, "What do you think you are, Efosa? You are just a poor boy with nothing. What do you expect to do in that city?" The thought of her bitter words stung, but Efosa was determined. This was his chance, and he wasn't going to let anything, especially her, stop him. Meanwhile, his stepbrothers, Eiz and Jude, had passed their JAMB exams as well, and had already secured spots at prestigious universities. Mama Eiz celebrated their success openly, showering them with praise, buying them new clothes, and making plans for their future. She couldn't have been prouder of them. But Efosa couldn't help but notice how she treated them differently. He had never known the hardships he had endured, never had to struggle for every meal or fight for a future. They simply had everything handed to them, while Efosa was left to scrape for his own. As days passed, Efosa worked hard on his farm, trying to save as much as possible for the journey ahead. When the time came for him to leave, he told his stepmother that he was going to visit some distant relatives in the city. She barely acknowledged him, too focused on preparing Eiz and Jude for their university send-off. One final evening, before he left, Efosa stood in the quiet of the night, looking over the fields he had worked so hard on. It had been his world for so long, and now he was about to step into something far bigger. He took a deep breath and made his way to the road that would take him to Portharcourt. His heart was full of hope, ready for the next chapter of his life, not knowing what the future held, but determined to face it head-on. As he disappeared into the horizon, the sounds of the village faded, replaced by the promise of a future where dreams no longer seemed impossible.
There was a tragedy on the way. Did Efosa get to Portharcourt? Watch the next episode.